Now, in this technical demonstration, we're going to bring in those local profiles for the app's Unix server. This will be any user accounts that we want to bring in to grant privilege to at a local level. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Unix zone under the computers, and we're going to expand the app's Unix server. We'll go ahead and right click on Unix data, and we're going to import from Unix. Now from here we have two options. We can use NIS, or we can use the Unix config files. This will be the etc password and the etc group file. Now I've already downloaded these from the system earlier, so we're simply going to go and browse and select them. So let's start with the etc password file. And we'll do the same thing with the group file. We'll click next. Now we can apply some filter options. We can include the system accounts with the UID or GID. We can also automatically shorten the Unix names to 8 characters. So these options are available to us. We're not going to select them for this technical demonstration. We're going to go ahead and keep them as is and click next. We do want to store these in Active Directory and not in an XML file for this particular demonstration. We'll go ahead and click next. And we now can start the import process. Now there is the option to check for data conflicts while the importing is taking place. This will add more time to the import process. So from here, we'll go ahead and click finish. And now we can go ahead and expand the Unix data. And under users, you'll notice that we have a pending import. The same is true for groups. If we click on pending import for users, we'll see that there are a number of users already in place. Some of these are system accounts or system profiles that have been added during the installation of the operating system. But in other cases, they're actual profiles that were created for users. So let's go ahead and I'm going to sort these by the UID. And the accounts that we're going to be looking for are these 4 that I created earlier. These 4 are specific privileged accounts, or in some cases local profiles that users use on this machine. Now what we want to do is we want to compare these to Active Directory to consolidate the identities into one. Now the way we do this is by selecting them as I have here, and we right click and we select check status. Now when we do this, it's going to prompt us to identify the Active Directory environment, in this case the Green Safe Lab. So we'll simply click OK. And now what you'll see is over here on the right, it has identified an Active Directory user candidate. That means that these local profiles do match an existing Active Directory account object that's currently under Active Directory users and computers. So we can now review them to see if they do match what we want them to match. And if they are correct, we can simply right click and accept them. That will move them out of a pending status and into our user status. That means we've consolidated these into one identity. Once privilege has been applied or roles have been applied, then when these users log into the Unix system, they'll be doing so with their Active Directory identity, which is linked to their Unix local profile. Now the remaining pending users, we're not going to be adding to Active Directory at this time, so we can simply select them all and we'll go ahead and delete them just to clean them up. Now let's take a look at our groups. Now if we go to pending groups, once again we have a number of groups here. Now we can do the same thing, we can simply run a check status, but we have to be careful, especially with the users group, because we already have a users group in Active Directory. So what we want to do is instead of having it merge or consolidate those two groups together, we want to create a new group specific to this system. So let's do that. I'm going to right click on users and I'm going to select Create New Active Directory Group. We're going to click Browse. Now this particular group we're going to add under the Centrify OU under Unix Groups. We'll click Next, and now we're going to give it a name. Now it's always a good idea to follow your naming conventions as you create your groups, but again, make it identifiable for your organization. Now in this particular instance, I'm going to name this one based on default Centrify group naming. So this is going to be CFY. I'm going to call it a group. We're going to add the name, which in this case is apps-unix. And we'll call this one users. We'll go ahead and copy it. And we'll keep it the same. And we'll make this a global group. We'll go ahead and click Next. Next again. And now we've completed the group creation. Now from here we'll click Finish. And we'll delete the remaining groups. Now while we have our group, we do need to add those users to the group. So in order to do that, we'll go back over to Users. We'll select the users. And we'll simply add them to the new group. And now those users have been applied properly. Now this is going to be the standard procedure when you bring in a new system that already has local profiles identified. In other cases, you'll simply add Active Directory groups through role assignments to access these systems.